an expert in this area, and she can give. I'd love to actually, Sid, why don't you give us a little bit of your background and how you got into this with food and nutrition?
Sure. This came about for me about 30 years ago, Mike, when I started eating a vegetarian diet for ethical reasons, not realizing the health benefits that came along with that. But I wasn't doing it correctly at first. I started off with a very unhealthy vegetarian diet, and then I graduated to an unhealthy vegan diet in a way. And
Mm.
then I ran into Dr. Pam Popper. Do you know her from the
Yes.
Wellness
Oh
Forum?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I stumbled upon one of her classes back in the late 90s, and that was a life changer for me. I began to realize the importance of food and where I was going wrong with it. And I switched my diet and saw such great results that I decided to become certified for Dr. Popper at that time.
Okay.
That was many years ago. And since then, I decided to pursue a career path with that just to help people. There's so many people suffering needlessly, as
Yeah.
you know, Mike. And I just had a heart to write a book about it and to just offer classes in my area and to help people as much as I could.
All right. Well, something you mentioned there a little bit in the beginning of when you started telling me your background is that it sounds to me like vegetarians and plant-based or vegan eaters may not necessarily be eating in a healthy manner. Is that
That's correct. Unfortunately, that is correct. And I get that. I know that many people are in the movement for ethical reasons, and so am I too.
right?
But I also want to focus on the health reasons as well.
Right. Yeah. For people, animals, and our planet is our slogan, and we also believe that the human animal is a being as well. And we want to make sure to treat ourselves as best as possible. I think it sets the right example for everyone.
I agree.
So okay, so of course, right now this is was it Friday the 20th of March in 2020, and we've got the coronavirus
Yeah,
pandemic going on right now, and there's a
right.
lot of talk out there about your immune system, optimizing your immune system, making sure it's strong. How does
Mhm.
diet and nutrition relate to that?
It's very important. I made a few notes. If you don't mind, I'd like to share those with
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
The immune system is really relying on our white blood cells to produce antibodies, which combat viruses and bacteria and all those other invaders that come into our system. So keeping a healthy immune system is really important, especially now in light of what's going on. Limiting dietary fat is a big one, especially high fat foods like oils and
Mm,
a lot of nuts. If you're eating a lot of high fat foods,
right.
that limits our immune system function. So we want to really try to keep our fat intake on the lower side during this crisis that's going on. And research also shows that oils actually impair white blood cell function as well. And also our gut bacteria is affected when we're eating a lot of fat. So one point would be to keep your fat intake very low right now, especially. And then another thing is that obesity increases the risk of influenza and especially being susceptible to viruses. So another big point would be to try to lower your BMI. And we know that a plant-based
Right.
diet is great for that, for weight loss, especially with all the fiber, which also helps our gut bacteria.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and plus, a plant-based diet reduces our inflammation markers greatly, which is another factor in our immunity. We need those good vitamins, A, C, and K. Those are all great anti-inflammatory properties that also affect our immune system. So we want to just eat a lot of great whole food plant-based nutrition, stick to the whole foods, keep it on the lower fat side, and eat. I know a lot of people eat oranges for vitamin C, but did you know a pepper has 3 times the vitamin C as an orange? So have some peppers with hummus. That's a great source of vitamin C.
When you say peppers, is that a specific type of peppers? Like there's colored peppers, there's green peppers.
Well, all peppers are good, but I think
All right.
red are a little higher than green. I'd have to double check that.
All right.
But yeah, all peppers are very high in vitamin C.
Okay. All right.
So just,
Excellent.
yeah, that's a great thing to have as a snack. Other things are that those antioxidants also destroy the free radicals which are in our system. Those free radicals cause oxidative stress, which is another thing that can impact our immune system.
All right.
So whole food plant-based all around is really, really good. Especially right now, you want to give your body the best defense, the best immune system. That's what the immune system is, right? It's the guard dog in our body. It attacks anything that it sees as foreign, especially those bacteria and viruses. So the best thing we can do is have the strongest immune system going into this time of uncertainty.
Okay. Well, I'd like to touch on some specifics dealing with those points that you brought up. But before we do you happen to know, let's say someone's out there watching who's not eating a whole food plant-based diet, whether it be vegan, animal product based, vegan junk food, just general plant-based, could be, there's a multitude of different levels people could be at. But
Mhm.
if someone switches to a purely whole food plant-based low fat like you're describing,
Mhm.
how long does it take to impact the immune system? Is this a long process or a short one?
You know, it doesn't take long, Mike. The body instantly starts to heal when we stop putting the wrong foods into it. That's the cool thing. The body is always striving to heal itself, which is
Right.
amazing.
That's
And when
amazing.
you
Yeah,
give it
that's
that right
wonderful.
nutrition, I mean, it does not take long to see great results. I mean, it's not like you're waiting months to see an improvement.
So
You're
that should be
waiting, like,
encouraging. Yeah, that should
yeah.
be encouraging because I feel like, most people watching out there probably don't have the coronavirus and hopefully won't get it. But if you listen to what people are saying, they're saying that
Mhm.
most people will get it. So it may only be a matter of days or a week till someone gets this virus, and then their immune system is absolutely going to be dependent on for your recovery. So if someone starts right now, they're gonna. This is there's the benefits based on the cost benefit analysis, is extremely uh, is extremely positive, right? I mean, there should be no better reason than that to move into whole food plant based right now, because it's going to affect the lives of so many people, including possibly yourself. So I mean, a viewer out there watching. So I'm glad to hear that.
Right. You know, it's really sad when you see pictures of the empty shelves at the store. All the meat and dairy is gone first, but there's plenty of produce still left in the stores that you can.
That's
That
what you want. Yeah, and actually, actually, maybe we'll get into that later. But I want to talk about organic versus conventional. But let's go back to some of the points that you brought up, because I think the first point you brought up was low fat, and
Mhm.
I know that I see just because you're whole food plant based, I think doesn't necessarily mean that you're eating correct on the fat percentage. Is that true?
That is very true, Mike. Nuts and seeds and olives, avocado are all at the top of the food pyramid for a reason, and that's their high fat content. Those foods are fine for most people in a limited way. Like, say, you throw a few nuts on your oatmeal, or you put a slice of avocado in your burrito, or you throw some olives in a quinoa salad. All of that is fine. But when we're focusing too much on those foods, eating big handfuls of nuts
Right.
and so forth, and oils, though, really, oils should be
Yeah.
totally eliminated because they are 4,000 calories per pound. They're the highest caloric density food on the planet,
Wow.
are oils. And they're very damaging, not only to our immune system, as we just talked about, but our heart vessels as well. So
Right.
those foods, the oil should be eliminated, in my opinion, and in the opinion of Dr. Russellston and many others as well.
I tend
And
to agree with that. And through our nonprofit, aPlantBasedDiet.org, we do have what we call our certified healthy vegan food. And
okay.
right now, that it's a very low level certification, but the main thing that we have in there that differentiates this healthy vegan food from normal food without animal products is the fact that there are no added oils in it, and there are no ingredients that contain added oils, such as the faux butters and faux cheeses and things like that.
Right.
A lot of those are either made from oil with added ingredients, especially the cheeses are made from nuts. And people think, oh well, it's nuts. Hey, it's healthy, right? I can put this
Mhm.
cheese on everything. But from what,
Yeah.
from what you're saying, you definitely don't want to do that, right? Because that's going to be it sounds like a negative consequence to your health, overall health, to your immune system. And also,
Mhm.
I've heard that, and maybe you know about this, that diabetes, specifically type 2, is more of a fat disease. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people think diabetes is caused by sugar. It's not. It's caused by too much fat in the system, which is compromising our cells and not allowing the insulin to get into the cells, or not allowing the insulin to open the cell to allow the glucose to get in there. So
Right.
our cells become compromised when we are eating a lot of fat. And that's the precursor to type 2 diabetes.
So it doesn't matter if you have rid your life of all animal products. You still might get type 2 diabetes if you're eating too much fat, too many fats from plants. Is that right? Is that possible?
You could, yes. And you know what? Your cholesterol can raise too, even though you're not eating cholesterol. When we eat a lot of fat, our system has to digest that fat, and it does so with bile from our gallbladder. And bile is very cholesterol laden. It comes from the liver, which is where cholesterol is made. So when we're eating a ton of fat, we can actually raise our cholesterol, even though we're not eating any animal products.
Interesting. And I found that out myself too. I actually just did an interview the other day with Gwen Whitaker from Green Fair Organic Cafe. You may or may not know about that restaurant. I may have mentioned it to you before. I'm not sure, but it's in Herndon, Virginia, outside of DC. Most people don't know about it, but that restaurant is totally focused on your health. And I went and I did their 21-day Kickstart program, which is done through PCRM, but it's done at their restaurant. And I just ate their food for 3 weeks, did the blood test before and after. I am one of the healthiest eaters I know. I haven't eaten animal products in at least 6 years. And my cholesterol dropped significantly. And,
Wow.
and it was because of exactly what you're saying. I didn't even realize this until last summer when I did this, that it was because of the fats. I was eating a lot of nuts, avocados. I was eating like Lara bars. I used to think that was like the healthiest thing for you, a Lara bar. But then I realized after I did this, I'm like, well, why did my numbers drop? You know, I'm like, well, I wasn't eating any Lara bars. I used to eat them all the time, you know, and they're nut based. So they're very, very high in fat as a percentage of calories. So
Yeah.
that was a wake up call for me. And I hope more people will get that because I guess it made me realize that, like you keep mentioning, whole food plant based. That is, I think, the optimal term for things, but I think people need to be more specific. And I don't know what that is, but just low fat, because I know that Gwen, the owner of that restaurant, says I think it's like 10 to 15% of calories from fat, no more than that on everything as an average. And people who are really into plant-based eating and eating the faux ice creams, the faux cheeses, all these things that are nut-based, there's no way they're meeting those things. And if they've got oil, like you said, just skyrockets that percentage of fat to calories. So yeah, it's something to keep in mind.
It does. I mean, and when you think about oil, it's the extracted fat from a food. That's what oils are. It's not a whole food at all. It's just the pure 100% liquid fat from the food. So why would we want to just eat the fat from the food? You know, we want to eat the whole food so that fat can get processed the way it's supposed to.
Right. Inside the body process. And that's actually the term that I use when I talk to people, and they say, well, why can't I have olive oil? It's got a good reputation. I'm like, what I say is, well, that's the most highly processed form of an olive that I can think of. You know, and then usually like, yeah, processed food is bad. And then you're saying it's the most highly processed. And like, yeah, I think that it is. So
it is for sure. And the most calorically dense, and 14 grams of fat per tablespoon. So extremely high in fat.
Right.
And yet we coat our salads with it. We saute with it. We bake with it. I've read that, just 3 tablespoons a day, which is not unlikely in the American diet, can add 3 pounds of weight to a person a month. So not only the health standpoint, but the weight standpoint as well, which all ties together.
True. And I think eating out is a thing too, because we've adopted the certification to help restaurants and other food vendors to kind of point people towards their healthier items. But if they don't see that certification, and we're only in a few places right now, eating out is dangerous unless you're going to Green Fair, because all their stuff is so amazingly delicious and healthy. And actually, let's move on from that a little bit, because I want to know your opinion about organic or not. Do you have any research on that?
Buy organic, the best the budget can afford. If you ever go to the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen, on the Environmental Working Group's website, you'll see which produce retains the most pesticides even after they're washed. So that's a good place to start. And if you want to buy organic, if you can't afford to buy organic, do so. But if you can't, people aren't at the doctor's office because they're buying conventional produce.
Right.
They're not eating any produce. So
right.
Eat produce, buy the best that the budget will allow you to get, and check out that Clean 15 Dirty Dozen to see which foods are the most highly contaminated. And those are the ones you'd want to choose organic if you can.
That's true. So I guess organic is more of a fine tuning in terms of like heart disease and things like that, diabetes. It's not necessarily going to affect any of that, right? But I think that, and a lot of unknowns are out there with chemicals and food.
Yes.
Some of these non-organic foods may cause certain cancers, right? That
Right.
we can't pinpoint them all right now because I think we're too early in terms of all the evidence and science in there. But my own gut bacteria feeling here is that
Mhm.
there's probably a correlation, there's probably a connection. It's probably like a lot of things where you don't know how sensitive you might be to a certain thing because everyone's different. But
Right.
like for me, obviously, yeah, it's a budget item, so we got to make sure you can afford it, and whether or not you're going to get any benefits out of as an individual, or we don't know, but there probably are some benefits. So that's good.
Definitely. Ideally, if you can afford to do all organic, do it. I
Okay.
mean, that would be ideal. But
Okay.
it don't let that stop you from eating produce if you can't.
Right. Right. Of course. Yeah. Eat as many whole or minimally processed plants as possible is what I'm hearing you say,
Yes.
and then as chemically free as possible.
Yeah,
Whether you go to organic or not. So that's just different levels of that, I suppose.
absolutely.
One of the things you mentioned earlier as well is fiber, and that's something I've heard from other people say, like, it's not where to get your protein, it's where to get your fiber, because even if you're
Mhm.
plant-based, you may be eating mostly junk food. It doesn't matter if it's vegan junk food or animal product based junk food. It's still the same to your body, right? I mean, you're not getting any fiber. So
Right.
why is that specifically so important, and why do people need to move away from? How do you know if there's enough fiber in your food that you're eating?
Well, if you're eating a whole food plant-based diet, you're getting 50, 60, or even more grams of fiber a day if you're following a whole food plant-based diet. Now, the RDA for fiber is like 32 grams a day, but
Mm.
Americans are typically getting about 15 grams a day. They're
Oh,
getting nowhere near the fiber. Less than 3% of Americans get the fiber that they need. And fiber is so important. It carries all that waste out of the system. It carries hormones out. It
mm.
regulates our blood sugar. It does all sorts of health benefits. Yeah,
Right.
it's a good question. When people say, "Where do you get your protein?" I'm always tempted to ask, "Well, where do you get your fiber?" Because if you're eating the standard American diet, you're getting very little. It's only found in plant foods. There's no fiber in coffee or dairy or meat or hot
Mm.
dogs or bakery. There's no fiber there at all. It's
Okay.
only found in plant foods. And so if you're eating a lot of processed foods, look at the whole grain. If it's not a whole grain, all the fiber's been removed. If that product has enriched bleached flour, there's no fiber there. They've removed the outer coating of the grain, which is where the fiber is.
Okay. So like
So,
a
yeah,
white pasta versus a whole wheat pasta, there's a huge difference there, you're saying.
yes, definitely.
All right. Okay. And what about the form of fiber? Because I don't know much about this, but I've wondered this. If you're making a smoothie and you're blending it up and chopping it up, is that fiber different in the way your body handles it as compared to a more whole plant source that's not blended?
Well, I've juices definitely have the fiber. From what I understand, if you're juicing something, you're removing a lot of the fiber. But we saw Dr. Greger speak recently at
Yeah.
the Charlotte County Veg Fest
Yep.
about smoothies, and he said that the question came to him, what if you're blending greens, to make a smoothie? Does that remove the nutrition? And Dr. Greger said, it does not. It actually improves the nutrition, but the trick is to sip that smoothie very slowly to let it absorb. Because if
Right.
you're like me, you tend to gulp down a smoothie because they're so good.
Yeah,
So
me
the
too.
fiber, I'm not sure about the fiber in the greens in that case, but Dr. Greger did say there'd be more nutrition in blending
Nutrition,
it.
yeah, I remember hearing him say that. That's actually one of the reasons why I'm asking this, because I was still wondering in my mind though. I'm like, well, what happens to those molecules of fiber? Because like someone could say, well, look, I just take a fiber pill. I guess that's a form of fiber
Yeah.
too, but it's a very different form, right?
It's very different. The Fiber One products and, Benefiber and all that, those are man-made functional fibers, they're called. They do not offer the same benefit as the fiber you're going to get in a whole plant food.
Okay.
So it's a totally different.
So at least for now, we'll say eat that whole plant for the most part. That's your best source of fiber. I guess we don't know what happens to the fiber because even a smoothie is great. It's better than juice, like you said, because juice is extracting. Juice is highly
Right.
smoothies more minimally. It's all still there, but it's all chopped up, right? So we just don't know.
Right.
'Cause even though Dr. Greger, a lot of times he says, like for oatmeal, you want to get the biggest pieces, not the smallest pieces, right? And I guess that
Mhm.
has to do with processing and making sure you're more minimally processed. But there's a lot we don't know. But these are just things to think about, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
if you're
also,
just having a blended smoothie now and then, no big deal, but if you're making a smoothie every day, then yeah, you might want to investigate that fiber. Fibers are long chain resistant starches is what they are. So we're breaking those up, when we blend them. And so yeah, something to look into a little deeper if you're planning to drink a lot of smoothies, which I wouldn't recommend. Smoothies should be at the top of the food pyramid. They're fine.
Right, right.
But,
And I've also heard with smoothies too, the other danger with them is that if you drink them a lot, like you're saying, I don't know if speed matters, but you're drinking a lot of calories just in one meal, right? That you wouldn't necessarily eat all those calories if you were eating the whole plants, because it takes you so much longer to put them in your mouth.
Exactly. I think of that. Sometimes I do a whole class on dessert smoothies, and that class always sells out because people want to know how to make a dessert smoothies, and there's so many. But I think about that when I'm adding a banana and an orange and more fruit. And I thought, if this was on a plate, would I eat all of this? I would not. But when I blend it up, I'm going to down the whole thing. So yeah, you're taking a lot of calories.
Okay, so for sure in a smoothie, don't ever put like avocados or nuts in there because you're going to get a tremendous amount of fat.
Yeah, that's true.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Especially with what you talked about earlier. But one supplement though, what do you think about B12? That's a supplement. So what do you think about that?
It's definitely needed. Yeah. You got to supplement with B12. And I have a whole article about this on my website because there's a lot of differing opinions out there from doctors that we know and trust.
Okay.
There's recommendations for 500 micrograms a week to 2,500 and even more. So I do have an article on my website about that to help sort through that, and so people can determine how much they want to take personally. I personally take 1,000 micrograms a week, and that has worked for me, just me personally. But you might want to read that article because
we'll put a link to that to your website. What is your website, by the way? And we'll put a link to it on the video.
Oh, okay. It's Sid Notter. That's CYDNOTTER.com.
Okay. All right. Great.
Yeah.
We'll have a link to this at the end of the video so you guys can have that. And also, so you're saying for sure, everyone should be supplementing with B12, and is that the only thing they should be supplementing with? That's it?
Unless you're diagnosed as deficient with something, that is the only supplement that I recommend, because when we take in isolated nutrients and we don't really need them, the body has to figure out what to do with that. When you're eating whole foods, you're getting all the minerals and vitamins synergistically as the way they're meant to be consumed, and your body knows what to do with that. But when you're just taking big doses of a single nutrient, your body is then forced to deal with that. And sometimes it can create imbalances just to try to deal with that thing that you're ingesting. So my advice is that unless you're diagnosed as deficient in some nutrient, there's no need to supplement, except for B12, which is not really, people say, well, you have to eat animals to get B12. Animals are getting B12 because they're eating plants with dirt on them. That's where B12 is formed, in the dirt.
And they're injected with those nowadays as well. I think there's not enough of that available in the natural environment. So either way, it's a supplement.
Right.
So, but there's one other thing you mentioned that you have to look out for, or you should be doing, in addition to your food and just general nutrition. And that was what? Vitamin D outside? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, vitamin D is really great to improve the immune function. And where do we get vitamin D, which is actually a hormone? It's converted in our system from sunlight, right? When sunlight hits our skin and there's a process through the liver, it makes vitamin D. So in order to get that vitamin D, though, we do need a little unprotected sun without sunscreen, because sunscreen really blocks the skin's ability to convert vitamin D. So I know everybody doesn't want to be out in the sun without sunscreen. And I'm not saying allow yourself to burn, or anything crazy like that, but try to get a little unprotected sun. 10 or 15 minutes on your face and arms is all that you need for, I think it's 10,000 international units of vitamin D.
10 or 15 minutes. And I'm guessing that varies depending upon the season, your latitude, things like that, right? The strength of the sun.
Right, but the body can store vitamin D to be used when, you're not getting enough sun or you're living in a climate with no sun. So that's a cool thing too.
Okay. All right. Well, so basically from everything we've discussed here, it sounds like food and nutrition, and then of course sunlight thrown in there, is going to have major positive impacts on your immune system, and almost instantaneous from what you're saying too, if done right. And I think that's kind of where you step in here as an expert. You know how to do it right. And, folks can look at your website, like you mentioned earlier, and review this video, tag folks in this video, share it. And, Sid is definitely someone who is very knowledgeable in this area. And you provide a great message of encouragement and hope for people that no matter where you are in your journey, that it won't take long, right?
It will not take long. And it's going to vary depending on the severity of what's going on with you, but it does not take long, and you'll be surprised. I mean, as we said earlier, your body's always striving to heal. And when you give it that nutritional environment to do so, and you get some sunshine and you get good sleep too. Sleep is, I don't know if we mentioned that earlier, but getting at least 7 hours of good sleep a night is important for immunity.
Right.
But yeah, diet is the key factor. I mean, your whole system, to me, diet is the number one factor, and other doctors agree. It's the number one factor in our health.
Right. You can't out-exercise a bad diet. I fully agree with that. And also, one thing you mentioned about sleep, if you're not getting enough sleep because you can't, because some people have insomnia, I have the cure, at least from me, my own personal experience. Go get some aerobic exercise. Usually when I cannot sleep, it's because I'm just not tired enough. I mean, I've got a lot of energy, I think, because I treat myself well. I try to eat the best diet I can, but still, there are nights when I don't sleep much, and I realize, well, what did I do that day? Did I get up from my desk? How much did I even move around? Did I run? I probably didn't run. But for me, I need to run because that's the kind of shape I'm in. For others, it may just mean a walk of a few miles. That might provide enough aerobic exercise, but that will ensure your sleep. If anyone's worrying about not getting enough sleep, that'll ensure it.
That sounds great. Yes.
Yes.
Exercise is important.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us, Sid. And we look forward to future videos with you as well and sharing your knowledge and expertise.
Can I give a shout out to my book, Mike?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Please.
Okay. This book was just named a 2020 Book Excellence Award winner. Last week, I got notified that the book won an award. So I'm really happy. It's called The Plan A Diet. If you're bored right now and locked in, I've got free shipping on my website. I'm not even going to charge you for shipping. And I wanted to say too that I do have a free 21-day meal plan. If anyone wants that, just email me through the website. If you're looking to try some new recipes to get on board with whole food plant-based eating, and simple recipes too. Simple recipes, because that's what people tell me they want. When I'm out doing classes, they don't want gourmet dinners. They want the easiest, simplest things they can make in the kitchen. And that's what we're going to focus on. Yeah,
because most people are not gourmet chefs, but they want to do the best they can. So that's wonderful that you have that. So that's great. And again, we're having the website link at the bottom of this video so you guys can check it out.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention that this book is endorsed by Dr. Hans Deal. A lot of you know him, Dr. Anthony Lim, Dr. Pam Popper. So check that out.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that you remain healthy throughout this pandemic and continue to spread the good news to people.
Thanks, Mike. And the same to you as well.